excited to speak to you guys today. I hire a lot of account managers and account executives that are right out of college. And so when Whitney came to me with this opportunity, I was like, you know what, I'm going to take advantage of it, because there's a lot that I see as people right as they're coming out of graduation that if I could kind of have talked to them, I think, before, I think that would have kind of prepared them as they went into the business world. Again, like Whitney said, my name's Amy McNeill. I'm the Director of Account Services at G-Commerce. There's my Twitter handle. Like she said, I love that it's an assignment to go and look me up on LinkedIn. I would love to connect. So feel free to connect with me especially if you have any interest in marketing or digital marketing. Feel free to connect with me. I'd love that. So what I wanted to do, I know you need to or want to hear kind of my career path, what got me through the last 20 years, how did my journey happen. But what I've tried to call out throughout my slides is kind of some advice, some lessons, some things that I've learned over the last 20 years. And I'll go into some positive things I've done, and positive and negative things that I've done. And hopefully you guys can learn from me as well. So to kind of kickstart it, back when I was in high school, I thought I was going to be a personal trainer. I was a big basketball player and thought I'd go off to college and play basketball, and ended up going on a graduation trip to Europe and spent 5 weeks in Europe after high school. Prior to that, I'd been to Disneyland as a 7-year-old, so had no travel experience at all, and really just eye-opening. I mean, here I lived, born and raised in Utah, so going to Europe was just eye-opening. And when I got back, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do physical training anymore. I don't want to look at athletics anymore. Right now, I want to focus on travel. How can I get on my next trip? How can I get on my next vacation? So what are jobs? I had no idea. What are jobs in the travel industry that I can even get into? I thought about flight attendant, thought about all of these different things. And ended up finding a job with a company called Funjet Vacations. And Funjet Vacations is a tour operator, and they used to have an office here in Salt Lake. They no longer do, but they used to offer flights to Mexico for $150, nonstop to Cancun. It was amazing. And that was my in. It was like, okay, I'm gonna go work for a tour operator that I can start traveling the world, and for a very inexpensive pricing. So I was able to go to Mexico for $25 as an employee. It was really crazy. And in fact, through my, I want to say I worked there for about 3 years. Through my 3 years there, I went to Mexico 30 times. So it was fabulous. I had a ton of fun. I started right after I started at Funjet Vacations, decided I needed to really get into school. So I started that fall, right after graduating from high school here at the community college. And I was like, you know what? I want to become a travel agent. And at the time, which I don't even know if it exists anymore, there was a certification offered here at the community college for a travel certification. And we didn't even really have computers at our desks. I mean, it was like books and everything. This was 20 years ago. But it was very, very interesting. It was a lot of fun. And while I was going to school for my travel certificate, I worked at Funjet. And I started out in their call center, just answering calls, and within 6 months moved into an opening in the service office, or kind of the front desk office, where travel agents would come into the office and make payments and pick up documents and things like that. And so in that job, I actually had a lot of great experiences that have even kind of led me to where I'm at today. And one of the things that I got into in that job was working trade shows. And that was something completely new, something I had never done before. So I started working trade shows. I started really working with travel agents and helping them and training them on our product. And I would even take them to Mexico, and as a 19, 20-year-old was guiding these like 45-year-old women around Mexico. And they were crazy and out of control. And I'm like this 19-year-old going, what in the heck? They didn't show up in the morning because they were out all night. I mean, it was just a little bit insane, but a lot of fun. And what a great experience for a 19-year-old to have all of that responsibility on me. So what I want to do is kind of walk you through with each job, at least 2 lessons that I've kind of learned career-wise with each job that have kind of led me throughout my career. And so first I want to introduce you to Rebecca. Rebecca was my supervisor when I was at Funjet Vacations, and now she works for JetBlue, and she's an executive that runs all of the employee travel for thousands of employees. At the time, she was my boss, and really taught me some great things. One of the things that she taught me was to take my career seriously, even as a receptionist in a front office. She took her job very seriously, and that respect is something that I learned very early on. It was kind of like, I don't really know what I'm going to do with my career, but I'm going to work hard, and hopefully there's going to be promotions that I can get into. And so I quickly moved up within the company just as a 19, 20-year-old, kind of into different roles. Moved into the sales department, helped our sales office. And through that, they ended up wanting to start, Funjet Vacations wanted to start their own travel agency. And because I had been dealing and working with travel agents, they asked me if I would go and help open this travel agency. So even though I kind of wasn't sure, I'd earned my travel certification, I'd worked with travel agents, I'd guided travel agents, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a travel agent, but I figured, hey, you know what? I'm going to take this opportunity. It's a great opportunity to try something new. And so I ended up moving on to a new role there. But one of the things that I also learned from Rebecca was not to burn any bridges. That's super, super important to learn, to know, to understand. And it means so much more than not just, quitting and leaving one-day notice. It really comes into not burning bridges with the students. You guys are all going to school together. I can't tell you how many times you guys will then reach out to each other in the future and say, hey, I see that you work at this company. Is there any way you can pass on my resume? Well, if you didn't do your group assignment and you didn't communicate and things like that, they're going to go, yeah, no. They might pass it on, but they're not giving you a recommendation. And so throughout your life, anyone that you're meeting, it's really, really important not to burn those bridges. I have worked on and off with Rebecca for the last 20 years. My 2 additional managers and supervisors worked with them. They went on to work at different hotels, different travel sites, and I have continued to work with them. They've given me free stays, they've given me all these different things, but it all comes from them knowing I had great work ethic at even an 18-year-old, even though they haven't worked with me since I was 20 years old. Okay, that just kind of setting that example. And then I moved on to this next role. So we started this travel agency that was just based on Funjet Vacations. And down the road, about 2 years, that agency was purchased by Morris Murdoch Travel, which is one of the largest travel agencies. At the time, I think there were 20+ offices throughout the West. And it was a very large agency. And so that was interesting. I was a travel agent at the time, wasn't sure that I loved it. I actually had a lot of anxiety as a travel agent. If my phone had a voicemail on it, I would always think it was a client in Mexico under complete distress and something had gone wrong. So the job was not the perfect job for me. And actually that client-facing role at the time was very nerve-wracking. So, I'm up here speaking today, but I actually hate public speaking. And so, even that client-facing was stressful for me when I was, at the time, 20, 21 years old. And so, as I was in this role at Morris Murdoch, they realized that I knew this training system, this software system. It was called a CRM, called Client Base. And I was able to help train our other travel agents on this tool. And so because of that, they ended up moving me into a new position as a trainer. So I then at 21 became a trainer for Morris Murdoch Travel and went around and trained all of the different offices on this software that was used to manage all of our client information, all of our invoicing and things like that. It also helped with marketing because all of the client information was inside that tool. And so we were able to start segmenting emails and things based off of the information in that system. And that led me to my next role as the marketing manager. And so because it was just this gradual, it wasn't a planned thing. I was first travel agent, then trainer. Suddenly, I'm the marketing manager for Morris Murdoch Travel. They are a very well-known brand. They've been around for 50 plus years. And that was a little nerve-wracking. I think by the time that happened, I was about 24 years old. And I was put into a role where I was managing a team of 5. And some of them older than me. I was 24. I think I managed somebody that was 45. And that was interesting. I had never managed people before. But really just that opportunity of kind of being that person who knew the software is what ended up getting me into that role. And you know, my executive at the time, which I'll get into her in a second, she really saw that I was self-driven, I was self-motivated. I mean, as that trainer, I said, you know what? There's so many people in all of these different offices, how are we going to get this information out to them? And so I ended up saying, well, I wonder if we could build like a little internal website that they could watch training videos and I could create documentation and things like that for them. And I had no idea what I was doing, but I ended up learning that yes, you can create a little website. At the time, I used a tool called Dreamweaver, and I don't even know if it's still around. If it is, it's not in the simple format I used at the time. But and created our first little internal website, our own little intranet. And that's how this executive, our president of the company, really saw that, hey, I'm self-driven. It doesn't take somebody to say, hey, you need to do this. You need to learn how to build this. It was just me going, you know what? I'm motivated to get this information out there. I want to be successful in this job, and I'm going to figure out how to do it. So this brings out, and I had my little boy, cute little picture there. So I think it's important to kind of talk about as you're in your careers, you know, kids and marriage and things like that, it really changes how your career goes. And you make a lot of decisions based off of that. So at the time, like I said, I had gotten my certification here at Slick for travel certification. Throughout the next few years, I had taken a few more classes to get my associate's degree. So I finished that. And then I had a baby boy and thought, you know what, I got to get my bachelor's and I got to be done with it. You know, I've got to do it while he's small and young, and you know, and get it done before I am missing things in his life. Let's do it before he knows I'm gone. And so I ended up going to school full time. And graduating, it took me about 2 more years, and graduating in 2008. So that's an 11-year span, and not something I recommend for anyone in this room. Just do it. Just get it done. You're starting, finish it out, and you know, be done. If you know the job you want is going to require a master's, go for it. Just get it done, and don't take time off, because it really education is very, very important. And it will make a huge difference in your life. And I can't imagine having received any additional roles. I was kind of just lucky to get the roles I had without the degree. And once I had it, ever since then, I just can't imagine the success I would have had if I wouldn't have had it. So that's my little note on education. So then we've got Becky Potts. So Becky was my very first true mentor. She took me under her wings. And like I said, she saw something in me that she said, you know what, I'm going to really help this girl out. And she was amazing. She'd had years and years of experience. And we'll go into her a little bit. She was the most professional person I had ever met in my life. I mean, pearls. She, in the picture, I think even has pearls on. I mean, this was her every time I've ever seen her. I've gone to dinner with her even since. She has pearls, huge earrings, very, very finely dressed. And really that showed me how important it was. One of the statements she said was, dress for the job you want and not the job you have. And so I've had people always ask me that. They're like, well, what do I need to wear, in this job? What's the dress code? And I always say, you know what? You dress as professionally as the job you want, because if you come in every day in a t-shirt and jeans and tattoos up your sleeves, which I've got tattoos, I get it. I'm not saying anything about it. I'm just saying that can hold you back. If you come in dressed up, you're professional, they see a future for you that's above your current role. And so that's truly one of the things that, that Becky taught me. It was really, really important to learn early on. The next thing she taught me is don't bite the hand that feeds you. And this isn't a lesson she specifically said out loud. This was a lesson I learned by biting her hand. So she truly took me in. She was my mentor. She took me in under her wing. And one day I was stressed and I was kind of complaining to a coworker about how did she even put me in this role? Like, I'm not even worthy of this. I'm not even deserving. Like, what is she thinking? And that got back to her. And it really was a bad and poor message for board members, other executives to hear that I was saying she had done something that wasn't right. Like, you know, they then had to question, what is she doing? Is Amy right for this role? And so it's really important that you take these mentors that will kind of grasp onto you and say, hey, they'll tell you, I'm going to mentor you through this a lot of the time. And you really need to show them a lot of respect, make sure that you're not burning those bridges, and that you're doing everything that you can to succeed with all of the effort that they put into you. Because I promise you'll find people in your careers that will invest in you, and it's important to treat those people right. So from Morris Murdoch, let me think if there's anything else. From that role, I ended up having to do my very first firing. I had to fire my entire staff of 5. And what our board members had decided was that we needed to start working with an agency, a digital marketing firm, and go kind of outsource all of our marketing department. And so this was an interesting learning lesson for me to go through and lay off everybody who'd been there for years and years. It was very, very difficult. It's one of those business decisions that's very difficult to do and something that has really taught me a lot. But it also, by then starting to work with a digital marketing firm, I learned about, you know, without even knowing it, about the experiences I would now be having as a director of account services at a digital marketing firm. So all of these little lessons and experiences that have come throughout my roles lead into future opportunities for me and future lessons. So I think that's it for Morris Murdoch. My next role there, I think the one thing to note is that I was at Morris Murdoch for 10 years. That's a very long time, and something probably very few people in this room will experience, because it's definitely a changing career environment that I've seen. Usually people are there at their companies for about 2 years. So 10 years is a really long time. But one thing I did is I moved throughout the company. I was never in one role for 10 years. I was in multiple roles, and that kept it exciting. It kept it fresh. I was always learning new things. And I think that's just kind of one of the other lessons that maybe isn't in here, hopefully not. But you know, I hire a lot of what we call millennials, which is kind of not true, because that's anyone from, 80 to 2000. So my boss is a millennial, right? But I hire a lot of people that are in their early 20s, and they'll spend a year, and then they're like, okay, done, moved on. And I just want to say, you know what, slow down. You know, see if there's other experiences you can have here before you need to move on, and those opportunities are always there for you. Okay, so then I moved from Morris Murdoch Travel. This is one of those don't burn the bridges, because I ended up having one of my executives at Morris Murdoch Travel moved on to LeisureLink, and then came and kind of recruited me from LeisureLink. And so LeisureLink at the time was a company called VacationRoost, and VacationRoost was an e-commerce website that allowed you to book vacation rentals. And VacationRoost was really kind of an umbrella brand and had about 30 different brands underneath it. We called them kind of regional brands, like Park City Reservations, Aspen Destinations, all of these different kind of very geo-targeted websites for vacation rentals and hotels. And this was very different. I'd kind of been in the travel agency space for about 10 years and had helped with travel with trade shows and things like that. but this role was going to be very much digital marketing and very different. I was kind of in that direction towards the end of my time at Morris Murdoch, but never to this extent. So who here is anybody in a marketing, or I also call communications degrees, is there anybody? Okay. All right, so yeah, traditional marketing was what I was really doing at Morris Murdoch, which was newspaper ads. I mean, the reason I left was because they would not get away from newspaper ads, and it drove me nuts. I'm sure they still do it to this day. And so what I found and how I got recruited by Jim is he said, you know, you got to come here. This is amazing. It's like a tech company. I mean, we're super casual, and it's kind of that startup tech feel to it. And we're thinking future. We're ahead of the game on paid search and Google, and we spend about $1 million+ on Google. And so we've got our own private rep on Google, and so it was just so exciting. It was kind of something fun and interesting. And so I left Morris Murdoch and came over to LeisureLink as a role of a marketing manager, and I worked on a team of about 6, and I really focused on email marketing and content and social media. Those were my big things. I started an influencer program with them, and I did this probably 6 years ago. I think before influencers were really, it was kind of starting to make a little bit of a buzz at the time, and you know, there wasn't even Instagram at the time. And so I started a program there that I went out and found bloggers, and they would blog about our sites, and we would have them write blogs that we would put on our site as well. It was really fun, loved it. I helped with trade shows, did a lot with trade shows, and that's kind of been one of the things that's been throughout my career that I've kind of always done. And then about 4 years into my job at VacationRoost, we ended up deciding as a company to purchase a software called LeisureLink. And so in the end, we ended up rebranding the entire company as LeisureLink, and pretty much starting, it was like a startup company. It was a company that had been around, but nobody knew about it. And we ended up then, it really only dealt with hotels. And it was what they call in the industry a channel management company that would take a hotel or a vacation rental, and it would distribute it on all of the different OTAs. And OTAs are online travel agencies like Expedia, Airbnb, Booking.com, right? Those are all OTAs. And so this tool allowed these hotels and these vacation rentals to put all of their inventory in this tool, their photos and things like that, and then distribute it across all of these different OTAs versus going to each OTA and uploading photos and descriptions, etc. Well, this was only done for hotels, and our executive chose to launch this for vacation rentals. Vacation rentals, I'm sure you guys know something about vacation rentals, but they're completely different than hotels. You've got houses with 2 bedrooms and 5 bedrooms, and condos with 6 bedrooms and 1 bedroom, and the inventory is completely different. And let's just say we spent 2 years in a very startup feel, going out and raising money, raising millions and millions and millions of dollars. And in the end, after 2 years, we ended up closing the doors and laying off 250 employees. And it was crazy. We could not get it figured out in time. And we had burned through a lot of money, and we tried really, really hard. We had teams in like the Philippines loading inventory, and we just, the type of inventory was just too difficult. We would have been better off to start fresh, but it's all hindsight's 2020, and that couldn't be redone after so many years. We'd done it for about 2.5 years by the time we had to close. This was the last September. So kind of before I get into kind of what happened after that, I want to touch on one of my executives that I learned a lot from when I was at LeisureLink, and her name was Miley Keone. And Miley was a chief marketing officer, and she, like Becky before, is the president of a company with only male executives. Miley was again a VP, or I'm sorry, a chief revenue at the time. She's a chief revenue officer now. At LeisureLink, she was a chief marketing officer. And so she was one of my first examples of really in this executive tech company being one of the only females. And she was amazing. And what I really learned from her is how important culture is. And so this is one of her first lessons, was that, you know, she left about 4 years into my job there, and what a difference what a difference kind of took over the office once she left. How one person can truly set a culture in a company, and how important even just one person at a time it can take to make a truly great culture. We always talked that with her, food was our love language. She fed us all the time, and everything was about dressing up and having holiday parties, and just really this really fun and vibrant person. We had softball teams. We had, you know, we would go out and get all of these clothes that, you know, everyone could have like employee branded clothing. It was just a really fun environment. We'd have ski days all the time. One of our brands was Mountain Reservations. And so she would make sure we went and had ski days every few months. She was awesome. And so I truly learned, and especially have brought that into my next role, how important culture is. And it's something you guys should be asking about as you graduate and you go off interviewing. You know, have them explain their culture to you. It's actually probably a tough question for some companies to answer. It's something that every company is conscious of, and something that a lot of companies really struggle with. And so you want to know, you want to take a job that you want. You want this job that has the right culture for you. And one of the things that, you know, sometimes we'll ask our team, you know, what can we do to improve our culture? And they say, unlimited PTO. I don't know if you've ever even heard of this, but it's a thing. And they want a pool table. They want food all day, every day. You know, that is great. But it can't be your expectation when it comes to culture. Those are like bonuses. Those are like great things that kind of can make things, it can be an incentive, but maybe not a culture. And so for culture, I would say look for a company that breeds innovation, that's always looking for new ideas, and that really rewards those new ideas. So if somebody does come to the table with a new idea, they're promoted, they're rewarded. And that's what you should be looking for when it comes to culture. And not that there's a pool table and that you can work for free and all of those they can leave every Friday at 2. I mean, those are all just benefits. Those are great, and they're incentives and things that they're great to ask if those types of things exist in the interview process. But to have those expectations, it shouldn't be your top goal. So then we have my other lesson I learned from Miley, always go above and beyond. You know, I truly felt in the role I had at LeisureLink that I was worth more than I was paid. And, you know, so having that mentality makes your job really easy. You're not as stressed when you know you're worth more than you're paid. I'm not saying don't be paid what you're worth, but it becomes very stressful for people if they're not meeting expectations. And they, you know, those roles, there's a lot more of the firing, layoffs, things like that happen when you're not working and meeting expectations. So I always go above and beyond in every job. And I always want that feeling of I'm worth more than they're paying me for. And I have felt that that has paid off truly in the end through my different jobs and my different promotions. And even with LeisureLink, I was one of the last 3 people at the company and lasted through 9 layoffs over a 9-week period. And in the travel industry, I've been probably through a total of 25 layoffs overall. And so it's an industry that's kind of ups and downs, and it's your, you know, your dispensable income. And so if the economy's down, travel is less and things like that. And so it's just one of those things that I think has helped me truly in my roles. And I told somebody the other day that I've never had to go out looking for a job. I've always just been promoted. And so at the end of the days with LeisureLink, you know, I had been out looking, and that was a really weird thing. Like, I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my job. Never been unemployed since I was 15 years old. And what am I going to do? And so I ended up, literally, we closed our company on Monday. And on Friday, I heard from G-Commerce. They had a recruiter that called me based off of my LinkedIn profile. So LinkedIn profiles are really important. Keep it up to date. Because I had never at the time heard of G-Commerce, didn't know anything about them. And realized quickly that this is the perfect company for me. They're a digital marketing firm in the hospitality space. So it ended up, it's like, how did I not know of these guys? But they're a small company, 38 employees, based in Park City. And you know, so they were giving me an opportunity for a role as a director of account services, something I had never done before. But I had managed people, I had managed contractors. Like I said, I'd worked and actually managed our digital marketing firm when I was at Morris Murdoch Travel. When I was at LeisureLink, I managed our contractors that were our PR firms, our web firms, our digital marketing firms. So I had experience in it, but never a true agency experience. And that is what I've discovered over the last year, is how intense ad agency, digital marketing firms can be. It's very fast-paced. One thing that my expectation was I was going to go in and work 12 hours a day. That's not the case. We definitely have still a Park City culture where you are there at 9, you're off at 5. But when you're there from 9 to 5, you are working your butt off, and you are juggling a lot of balls in the air, and you have a lot of different tasks that you're trying to manage. It's a lot of project management, a lot of you know, understanding and knowing your clients. And so we have about 150 hotel clients around the world, throughout Europe and throughout North America. And I manage a team of 9. There are 9 account executives, and they all have about 15 different hotel clients, and they manage their digital marketing. And so in regards to digital marketing, just in case you know you guys aren't as familiar with it, digital marketing would be your Google paid search, your Bing paid search, your email marketing, your website edits, content marketing, social media, and Facebook ads, display ads, things like that. And so this really took me to a completely new level when it comes to digital marketing, because every client's different. I handle more of our enterprise clients, and every client's different, and you're not doing the same thing every day. It's literally completely different every day. And digital marketing is also very fast-paced when it comes to trends changing, and you're just constantly having to stay on top of everything. So not only are you having to be the expert for your client, but you're having to just constantly learn on almost a weekly basis something new, something that's changing. So I've been at G-Commerce since October of 2016. And my boss is Lindley Ferris. She's our senior vice president. She's actually one of the partners in the firm and has been there for 10 years. And younger than me, my first boss that's been younger than me, that was an interesting thing as well. She's fabulous. She's been at the company for 10 years, and I can't tell you how easy this job is to her because she knows everything about it, the ins and outs of everything. But has been one of those people in 10 years. Started at the very bottom. She was a search specialist, came right out of college, started as a search specialist, and has just moved in and out of every role within the company, and it has made her the perfect senior vice president because she knows every single role, and she knows what everybody is dealing with. But one of the biggest lessons I learned from her was, and not necessarily from her, but through my experience, through her leadership, has really been self-awareness. What role do I play in either a positive or negative environment in the workplace? So, you know, it's really important. You know, we have an employee that she manages that is the most negative person in the world. We call him Regina George. He is super negative, everything's complaining. And I can't tell you how one person in the company that's negative like that affects everybody else. In fact, we'll have new hires that we tell to avoid him and things like that. And So it's really the lesson I've learned. I mean, she's very loyal to him, and he's been with her for 8 years, et cetera. He's very loyal to the company and things like that. But it's very hard to even watch that. A lot of the time you're just like, fire him. Like, this is driving me crazy that he's still around. But I will say that we have made a turn, and it's been years though, like it started before I was there, a recent change with him, and what a difference that makes, and how when you can actually turn somebody around that is being negative and turn them into an advocate again, and a positive advocate, how important that role can play in the company. So another lesson that I've learned from her, having her go through 10 years of working throughout the company, was respect is earned. One of the things I say here is interact with coworkers like you could be their boss tomorrow by earning their respect today. I feel like that's so important in a role where she was a coworker, a colleague with all of her now employees. And it just, every single one of her team members respects the hell out of her. And how important that is, that, I have just kind of as little examples. We have coworkers, I'll have team members that will go out and get really drunk with their coworkers after work. It's not at work, they're good at work and they're professional, but they'll go out after work and get really, really drunk, say the wrong things like that. How do you then have that person as your supervisor, your boss the next day? It's not something that's comfortable. It's not something that can really happen. And so, you really have to, even outside of the workplace, be respectful. Have it, don't get too casual with even your coworkers, because you could try to be their boss one day and that's just not going to work. And if you do, maybe your supervisor or manager doesn't know that that's going on, your team will quit as soon as you become their supervisor. It causes major chaos. So even if you get the role, it's not going to go over well. So it's just truly important that you're always, going back to one of those first lessons, just super professional with all of your coworkers, and that you're really trying to earn everyone's respect at all times. One of the things, I just had a new group of new hires, and I told them, come in, work hard, come in every day on time, and it's not that I'll be watching, but your coworkers will be watching. And your coworkers will report to me like it's high school, or it's the nagging, they come in late all the time. I don't care, truly I don't care. If you come in at 9:15 and stay till 5:15, I don't care. Your coworkers will, your coworkers do. And it's one of those things that you just always need to be earning even your coworkers' respect, not even just your bosses. And then two of the things that I've truly learned just overall, to just kind of recap or end with, one of the things is try new things until you find what you love. So I always say, love what you do what you love. Was that the same? Am I saying it right? Do what you love what you do, something like that. My boyfriend, he thinks I'm the only person in the world that loves my job. I've always been like this. I love what I do. I get excited about going to work. I listen to marketing podcasts. I work in Park City. I drive. My son lives all the way out on Bacchus Highway. I will, with his dad, and I will have him every other week, and I'll drive sometimes 3 hours a day. And I will listen to podcasts every day. And I'm always just excited about what's going on. So digital marketing space is interesting for me. It's fun for me. But I think if I would have stayed in the call center from day one, 20 years of that would be a living nightmare. But it was perfect for that time, learn lessons, etc. So I always just try to take from the position I'm in a lesson. What's going on? What am I learning from this? If I was always that person that would volunteer for if something needed to be done, roll up my sleeve, get it done. Because you're going to learn something new, even if you're only doing it for a 2-week period. It's going to be a new little skill that you're learning. So I always say, try things until you find what you love. I had an employee quit a couple months ago. He said, I really just don't know that I love travel, but I love digital marketing. I'm going to quit because I'm going to go and do some soul searching and kind of figure out what I want to do. And very few people have the opportunity to do that, the funds to be able to do that, the parents paying for them to not have to work for the next 3 months while you soul search. And so it's really important that you're kind of driven and self-motivated to kind of figuring it out while you're in those roles. And if you aren't happy, trying to figure out, okay, is there a way I can be happy in this company? Maybe there's a different role within the company. And if there's not, then having just a really open, your managers, bosses will appreciate it, conversation, where you say, you know what, I'm just really not that happy. And I need to figure it out. But let's kind of start transitioning me out or something like that. I feel like it's one of those things, and you'll know your boss, you'll know if you can do it or if you can't do it, or if that's the path to take. But I'm the type of boss that would appreciate that, that love it. And in fact, with this one employee, it was just like, you know, hey, can you just hang around for a few more weeks? And I totally get it. Let's just figure out if we can kind of backfill and get somebody in. But you should have that type of relationship with your employer, with your boss. That should be something that you're looking for, that they want you to be happy, that they want you to have a great career, and that they're helping you get there. And it kind of leads into my last one, which was set career goals and always be working towards them, and make sure that your manager is helping you get to the next step in your career. That is the role of a manager, to really help you. Your manager shouldn't be expecting 20 years out of you. Your manager should be expecting that you're hardworking, that you're working and learning things that you need to be learning, you're doing the job, and then they should be creating growth plans and career plans for you. It's one of the reasons that I was hired at G-Commerce, because I was so passionate about it when I went into my interview, something they didn't really have prior to me. And I had learned over the years how important that was, to be able to go into my boss and say, you know what, I need more money, I deserve more money, but what I need to do is figure out how I can get to more money. So how do I do that? What do I need to do to get a raise? It wasn't, I want a raise, and this is, you need to give it to me. It was, walk me through the steps that I need to do to get more money, to get a new promotion, whatever that is. It might not be money, it might just be a new title. What do I need to do to get that new title? You know, it might be a year-long process. Be patient. It's one of the biggest things that I've really struggled with my team over the last year, is this lack of patience. I'll have people come in the door that I feel like are going, why am I not running the company? I've been here a month. And it's like, hold on, you just started, you have a lot to learn. And so it's a lot about that long-term planning. You know, I knew I wanted to be in travel, that's all I knew. And when I kind of got into a role of marketing, okay, I want to be in marketing and travel. But it's not having this complete, you know, goal 20 years from now that I would have never guessed this is where I would be. Wouldn't have even known. But it's overall kind of still that goal in the end. I want to make money one day. I want to be a consultant or something where I'm self-employed, that I can travel. I don't have to work a 9 to 5. I mean, those are still my long-term goals. And so everything I'm constantly learning, I'm going, okay, this is going to help me when I do this on my own. So Google paid search. For the hotel space, it's really getting into what they call meta search. When you go and do a search for, let's say you're doing for Salt Lake hotels, and I need to be more specific, like the Grand America. Then on the right-hand side of your Google search, it's showing Grand America and a little link for website, and then you've got Booking.com, Expedia, everybody else with their pricing. That's meta search right there. And it's what they call Google Hotel Ads. So in my space, that's the next big thing. It's really, really important to be there. They do have to pay a commission. So if a client, for you guys just out there booking hotels, it's just really interesting to know that if you book on Expedia, that hotel paid 20% for you. If you do a Google hotel ad, that hotel paid about 13 to 17% for you to book through that little ad on their own listing. You searched for Grand America, you clicked on their little ad, and even though you're booking right through them and you search right through them, you're still, the hotel has to pay for that buy. So book direct, go to their hotel website, that's kind of our thing. For hotels, That's why they use us. It's how do I get more direct bookings? Because they can get those OTA bookings. They can get the Expedia bookings. That's easy, but they're paying 20%. And so their goal is to be right there for those direct bookings and as high up as possible with organic listings. And you guys know about those, like versus an ad up at the top. Google's really become like a pay-to-play. And there's now as many as 8 ads. And if you're looking on your mobile phone, there's just like 2, and you don't even see any organic listings anymore. And so that's kind of been the big jump. The cost per click has gone up as much as 60% over the last 6 months. And hotels are kind of freaking out about how much more it costs for their own name. Because now the organic listing isn't even there, so they have to now pay for you to even click on their name now. And so that's really the big thing. I mean, everything, email's great because it's your list that you own, and you can kind of segment it and target it and things like that. But really, Google, the great thing about Google, for one thing, we split our campaigns into 2 campaigns. One's name terms, and that's where they're buying for their own name. And then we call it market terms, where you're searching just hotels in Salt Lake City, right? And then you're not looking specifically. But Google, by somebody putting in hotels in Salt Lake City, we call that kind of the bottom of the funnel. We know they're looking for a hotel in Salt Lake City. You're not just randomly showing an ad in your Facebook stream to somebody who's trying to look at recipes, right? So even though Facebook is great, it's a low-cost option. It's, again, just kind of an ad that people are seeing, and it's not necessarily hitting somebody that's looking for your product. And that's why Google is still going to be kind of the most important thing that you spend money on. Yeah, we have a team of what we call our search specialists in our search department that does a lot of keyword research to kind of figuring out, okay, this term we're never going to be able to afford. Let's don't even look at this term. Let's try to really do what they call long-term keywords, right? Long-tail keywords, where it's more like hotels in California, you know, like so long that those are less expensive than a hotel in San Diego, right? And so we do a ton of research on that. We usually try to select about 25 words that we're always monitoring every month. Are we going up and down? And then we make SEO efforts. We'll create content on their website that will really try to help Google see them as being more of an authority so that their cost per click for those keywords goes down. And so SEO and kind of that combo of the two, of SEO and actually putting content on a website, is very important along with the Google paid ad. And that cost per click will go down if Google sees you as being a more important landing page or a more important product. They'll kind of bump you up. We don't. We try to. I would love us to only do it. You know, it's so interesting because digital marketing, there's so many aspects of it. And so it's really nice if we can just focus on one industry. But we just picked up a client that's like a gaming system client the other day that I'm a little nervous about. I just feel like you go, it's different than if you have an agency that literally just does everything. But we're so honed in on the hotel space that even though we do take on a few clients that might be a friend of a friend that are like, please just take us on, I feel like it really causes a lot of disruption. And we're not as much of the experts as we would like to be. It's so much nicer to be like, we get it. We know all the software that you're dealing with. We know all the industry, you know, language, et cetera. So it really is a lot of that keyword research and the paid search stuff that we're doing. Are you talking about like free options? Kind of like what do we do that's kind of outside of paid search? So we do reporting constantly. We're always running reporting. For us, we do a lot of impression share reporting, and we can really show the client, hey, like for your name, you're only showing 10% of the time, so you have to increase budgets, and we'll really talk to them and we'll give them a lot of strategy when it comes to that. And we run a report every month on those keywords. So we're showing, and it's called a SERP report, if they're going up and down. And if they drop in a keyword that they're trying to rank for, then we help them write content for that keyword. So there's just so much that comes with the actual analysis every month of what's happening versus yeah, we have a digital marketing firm and they're just doing it. You know, they're just running our paid search. We don't really know what they're doing. There's actually a lot of education just on this is what we're doing, and it changes on a monthly basis. So those calls, those educational calls with our clients where we're like, this is the new trend, this is what's happening. Yes, you dropped with this keyword, so we're going to try to implement this keyword into your website more. Let's see over the next 3 months if we can kind of get that back up. So it's a lot of tracking and just making sure that we know we have hotels with very limited budgets. And so we are truly trying to give them like the best advice to spend the very least amount of money to try and get them as much conversion as possible. That is the nice thing about hotels. They have a booking engine on their website and you can track conversion. So you're able to modify their campaigns based off of, specifically this keyword converted versus we had clicks on this keyword. We don't know anything. We just know you got clicks. Or when we know you had impressions. We're able to do that full circle tracking with hotels where we can say, hey, you have this campaign, but we saw these keywords like the word downtown does you no good. So let's eliminate that so you're not showing for the word downtown because it never converts. So those are the things that we're going in and changing. I love Gary Vee. That's probably one of my favorite ones. Very specific to the hotel industry is a podcast called Fuel Marketing. And they're fabulous. And I just discovered them about a month ago, and they've got 80 podcast episodes. So I've kind of been obsessed with them for the last few months. In our industry, there's another one called Skift, and that is very, overall, not just hotels, airlines, etc., but it's very top level industry news. And so I really love that one. But Gary Vee, if you guys are anybody's like marketing, sales, just needs to be motivated with the F word every day, that's Gary Vee. He's fabulous, has a huge following, tons of books, has daily podcasts on YouTube, etc. So.